Hello and welcome back to Youth Code Jam's online Bits and Bytes lessons. Today we're going to switch to a new editor system. It is Microsoft's MakeCode Arcade. So we're going to be doing some gaming activities for the next 2 weeks. One note about MakeCode Arcade, it is a block editor, just like many of the other editors we've done. The biggest difference with this one is it really does replicate what game dev would look like, or game development would look like. So there's a lot of little parts that you have to do. So these videos are going to be a little longer than a lot of our other ones, just because there's so much more we have to consider in our setup. But that's good practice for if you're wanting to get into video game design. It just kind of gives you an idea of all the things you think about. So our activity for this video is going to be animating a sprite, which are our little players or characters within the game. That's what they're called in the editor, is a sprite. And by animate, this means we're going to have them move around the screen, and we're going to have them move in a realistic way. So if you've done some of our other videos or other activities on our channel here, you've probably done a couple of the MakeCode Arcade ones, and so you're like, we've made them move, what's the difference? This one is going to make it look a little bit more real, which is what a lot of the first-person games do today, is that they try to replicate real-life movement. So we're going to give you a bit of an idea of what thought process has to go into that and all the different components to consider. So this isn't maybe the most exciting activity, but it is a good insight into game design and development and all the things they have to consider. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to close out of this screen and open a new tab, and I'm going to head to Microsoft or MakeCode Arcade. I think it's arcade.makecode.com. And so you're going to see a home screen that looks like this. If you did our MakeCode microbit lessons with us, it was purple. Arcade is orange. You can see all the upcoming games that I've tested out on here that were developed by my coworkers, but we're going to start with a new project. You guys can go ahead and give it any name you want, or just go ahead and leave it unnamed. Just get in the practice of not giving a project your name. I don't have an account on here. This is just all saved by cookies within the browser and the site. Because I've allowed that. If you have cookies turned off, then they might not save. I'm not really sure. But even though this is my personal computer and no one else is using it, I'm still not going to name these with my real name or anything that identifies the creator as me, because it's just something to be safe. It's something for your safety. You never want to put your name out there unless you're very sure of what the consequences could be of that. So just give it a fun little name. I'm going to name mine Sprite Animation. Again, if you don't feel like typing out a name, you can just leave it blank and press create. So a quick rundown of what's going on our screen. On the far left here, you can see a little gaming panel. This looks exactly like an old Game Boy, which was made by Nintendo back in the 90s, early 2000s, maybe the late 80s, I'm not really sure. Funny enough, this is the exact color that my Game Boy was. But basically this is where our game will display, and this is how we'll interact with it. There is a way to download our code that we'll make and connect and place it on a device, but because this is a virtual lesson, we won't be getting into all of that. But if you did happen to have some of the compatible devices with this editor, you could do that. Right here in the middle are all of our block drawers. So we'll be searching through here to find everything and dragging them onto our workspace. We're going to leave this on start block here. Again, here's the download button in case you have an actual device that you could download this to and play the game on. You can rename your code here. You can export your code to GitHub if you have a GitHub account. This arrow is undo, this arrow is redo, this is zoom out and zoom in. So that's pretty much all you need to know. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to choose our character. Typically we would say you can choose whatever character you want. For this activity, go ahead and the first time you run through it, choose the same character that I use. It will just be easier to match things up, and then once you feel comfortable with what we've done, you can go back through and customize it and choose your own character and their movements and things like that. So the first thing we're going to do is choose our character. To do that, go to the Sprites drawer, and we're going to get this very first block under Create, and it says Set My Sprite to Sprite Gray Square of Kind Player. So we're just going to grab that block and place it in our OnStart block. So we're not going to worry about changing our player name right now, our variable name. We're going to leave it at My Sprite. What we are going to do is actually choose a sprite. So click on that gray square, and it's going to open an editor. And we could draw a sprite, but we're going to go ahead and choose one that is already created for us. And what we want to do is choose the hero warrior that's facing front. So I believe what we want is this guy right here. Yep, so this one says sprites.castle.hero walk front 1. And then what's this one over here? So you can choose either, you can see on my little pop-up under my cursor it has the names. You can choose this hero that's facing front and standing still, doesn't have anything in its hands. Or you can choose this one over here, hero walk front 3, it doesn't matter. Just choose one of those and then press done. And so we have our sprite done. Now we're going to do how to move the sprite. So this is going to be accomplished in a couple steps. First, we're going to do a forever loop. So we need to go to the loops drawer down here and grab this forever block. Just go ahead and place it anywhere on your workspace, it doesn't matter. Then go back to the controller drawer and get this first move my sprite with buttons. And then very simply, you're just going to press the plus sign at the end of that block once. So that's going to allow us to move, and it's going to give us a speed or velocity here at which we can move. So now if I come over here, you can see I can use all of these controllers, and they all have a speed, or I can just drag the button over here. So by controllers, it means this far pad on the left, or you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard. So that's how you can make your sprite move. Okay, so that's our general movements. Now we're going to add a little bit more, more detail. Let's go with detail to that. So go to the controller drawer once again and get this on a button press block. And in past videos, I think we've done A and B. This time we're going to do on the down arrow press. So click on the drop down next to A and choose down. And now we're going to change our animation for the sprite. Yes. So we're going to do our animation for the sprite. So the first thing you want to do is, you can see here there's nothing that says animate. We have sprites, controller, game, music, and so on. But this block is going to come from the animation drawer. So to get there, you're going to click on advanced. It's going to expand some more drawers here. And obviously click on that animation one. And we want this first one that says animate my sprite frames, interval, and loop. And place it inside that on down button pressed. So this time, because we did not change our sprite variable name, my sprite is good. The first thing we're going to do here is change 500 for our interval to 200 milliseconds. So you can either type that in the bubble or just click from the drop down menu. And then we want to turn loop on. So as long as you're pressing the down button, you want it to move. Alright, so here comes kind of a tricky part. If you guys want to watch what happens on the screen and then try it out, that might be a little easier than trying to do this with me. Okay, so I'm going to choose my frame. I'm going to do that by clicking on the gray square. Once again, we're going to go to Gallery, and we're going to choose a sheet of movement that already exists for us. And since we started with the facing front hero, we want to walk front or walk down. So it's going to be a little counterintuitive here. So it's called sprites.castle.hero walk front. This is the walk we're going to go with. So you can see as I hover on this frame right here, it's just moving constantly. So that's the one we want, them walking down, which means they're facing the user, and then just press done. And now my game, you can see it's refreshing, and now if I press the down arrow, you can kind of see them working. So I don't think we had you do this, but if you want, you can go ahead and set a background. Let me make sure it's not something we do at the end. Yeah, we don't have you set a background here, so it's kind of hard to see my character moving. So if you want to go back up here to the OnStart block, go to Scene, And we can just do set a background image. We're just going to use a default for this. Click on the square, go to the gallery. You can see they have some default ones here. If you want, you can go back later and make one for yourself, but I'm just going to use a default so that we can see how my character moves a little bit. So you can see, even though that's my walk front, that walk is happening no matter which direction I go. So our next step is going to be to change direction for our sprite, and we're going to do we're going to make those movements next, and we're going to do it for up, down, left, and right. We're going to save ourselves some time and just duplicate our existing code and make some changes from that. So I'm going to right click on this block, and this little pop-up menu is going to show up. I'm going to choose duplicate, and this next one I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the up movement. So I'm going to click on down. So you can see this block is all grayed out on my screen. That's because it's a duplicate and we can only have one block that does the same thing. So we can't have two blocks doing the same thing, is what I mean to say. So click on that down arrow and click up, and simply by changing which button we're using, that will reactivate it, make it legit block again. And we're going to leave everything the same here but the frames. So go back into frames, go back into gallery, and this time we want the character that's walking away, so their back is to us and then they're walking up. So you can choose this one, sprites.castle.hero walk back, or this one over here, sprites.castle.hero walk shield back. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go with this first one, sprites.castle.hero walk back. And just press done. And now if I update, we see him moving forward, and if I turn around, he's moving backwards. Okay, so we can see that that worked. I'm going to stop the code. I'm going to do that 2 more times for left and right. So I'm going to duplicate that block, change up to, let's start with right, click on my frame, go to gallery, and I want walking right. So that would be, this one right here should be walking right. Yep. Sprites.castle.hero walk right. Press done. And then one more time for the left block. Whoops. And change my button to left, and change my frames to left as well. Yes, sprites.castle.hero walk left is the name of that script. Okay, so this is simple enough, right? As soon as my game reloads, you're going to see that. Let's reload that. We're going to see, okay, so up, right, down, left. So you can see those movements are working, but it's still not quite there yet. There's a little bit more finessing we need to do. So let's move on to the next step. We're going to return back to our onStart block here. So you might need to push a block or two aside. I'm just going to move my forever block off to the side for now. We want to give it a starting direction when we first start, so that every time we start the game, it's facing a certain way. So to do that, go to the variables drawer. We're going to create a variable now, and we're going to name it direction. So under variables, click make a variable and name it direction, and press OK. And then you're going to grab the set direction to 0 block, and instead of 0, you're going to click in there and type the word down. No. What do I need to get here? No. Okay, we can leave that set to 0. Now we're going to go to the, sorry, I skipped a step. We're going to go to the text drawer. So remember we opened the advanced tab earlier. If you've closed that, go ahead and reopen it and scroll down to text. And you're going to get this blank bubble at the top. That's going to allow us to type in the word down. So grab that blank bubble and place it over the 0, and then type the word down. That's going to set our initial direction to down. But this still doesn't really mean anything to the program, so we need to add a few more things. Okay, so we're going to add this direction block to every single one of the movement blocks down here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more space. And again, I'm just going to right click and duplicate this initial block because I don't want to recreate the whole thing. It doesn't it's not efficient, and as programmers we want to save time. So down gets down. When we are going to go up, our direction should be set to up. And same for left and right. And if at any time you need to pause this video to make sure your code matches what mine is doing, that's fine. Okay, left, right. All right, guys, we're about a little more than halfway through. Okay, so we're gonna add, now we have most of our basic movement. We're gonna add a little bit more control to this, but you can see it's moving. We still haven't, we've set the direction, but we don't really know what that means yet. And we're about to do some code that will give the set direction variable some meaning. So go back to the controller drawer and grab yet another on A button press block. This time change A to any. And then we're going to go into the logic drawer and get an if then block. Yes, an if then block. And if you see this plus sign down here, we're going to expand this to be an if then else statement. So we're going to hit this 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to remove this last else because we don't need it for this code by hitting this minus sign at the end. So right where it says else all by itself, hit the minus sign. So now you should have if true then, else if blank then, else if blank then. And your code should look like that. Again, I'll just run through that because that one was new. From the logic drawer, I got the if then block. I hit the plus sign 3 times, 1, 2, 3. And the last minus sign after the else, that's all by itself, I hit that once. And this is our code that's going to give our directions some meaning. So go back to the logic drawer and get a blank equals blank. So it's very important you grab the blank equals blank because we're dealing with strings. Our words up, down, left, and right are strings. 0 is obviously a number. So these two equals, these comparison blocks mean 2 different things. These 2 right here are dealing with comparing numbers. This one is the one that we want to compare strings. So you're going to grab that equals block, and you're going to go back to the variables drawer and get the block that says direction. Put it on the left side of the equals sign, and on the right type the word down. And then go to the Sprite drawer and get a set my Sprite image to block. So I think we have to scroll down a way. Set my Sprite. Nope. It's down at the very bottom. Okay, so we want this block, set my Sprite image to, and then a gray square. So it's this very last block in the Sprites drawer. Place it inside that first if statement. And then you want to go back and reset that image to be the sprite, the hero that faces us. So click on that gray box, go to gallery, and choose the character that's facing us. So our hero walk front 1. So each time we change directions, it's going to pause for a second and reset the image that's facing so that it's a smoother transition between the direction change. And you know what? The directions were wrong here, so we need to add one more else if statement. So I'm going to click that plus sign 2 more times and then remove that last else. So we need 3 else if statements here. Okay, so obviously we have 4 directions. We need to check this 4 times. So I'm going to duplicate the code once again. For this conditional statement, I'm going to hover my mouse towards the end of that diamond shape and right click and click duplicate, and then drag and drop it into the next one. Set direction to up. I'm going to do that 2 more times for left and right. Okay, so now we have all of our direction checks. Now we're going to reset our images to match those each time. So back in gallery for down, I want the image that's him standing and walking away from me. So it's this one, hero walk back 1. And then we're going to go get the image for right. gallery. So you might have to look a little bit of the way through here for this one. So right is going to be in here somewhere, I think. Side shield left, left. And there may only be the character with the shield. Oh, here we go. Hero walk, side right 3. I'm going to go with that one. Hero walk, side right 3. And then the last one we're going to do is left. I think that's this one. Hero walk, side left 1. That's fine. Okay. So now if I run my code, we should see some minor changes here. If I go to the right, yeah, so you can just barely see it. It's very quick, but we get a different starting image there for each direction. And if I stop the code and restart it, I start facing down, as we should. Okay. So we're going to do one more thing here. So as you saw, that happened really fast. You couldn't see it. So we're actually going to stop the animation between changing directions. So go back to the animation drawer, grab stop all animations on my sprite, and add it to, after that if block. So we're still in this on any button press block. And we're going to press stop all there. Okay. So I'm going to refresh my code and try it out. Now, if I press, let's press the spacebar key, it stops my code and I'm facing front. But if I press it facing left, it stops the image there. And same for that direction and that direction. So again, this isn't really a game or something you can continue playing. Well, you can continue playing with it. You can try out other animation types, other frames that were in here. As you saw, there was some with a shield and a sword, and the other characters have frames as well. So there are some things you can explore in here. But this is to give your characters a little bit more natural movement that you would expect to see in a game. So this is code that you can reuse in any project you want to build by yourself. But just take a second and look at all that code you wrote just to move a character around a screen. So there's a lot of work and thought that go into video games and making everything interact with each other and move correctly and all that other stuff that goes along with it. So it's just something to kind of think about, that there's a lot of things to consider there. That's going to be it for this video. As always, you can learn more about our programs and other activities on our website. If it loads, let's try again. Here we go, usecodejam.org. Sorry, my internet appears to be a little slow. So this is our main page. As you can see here, this is being filmed in April, or recorded in April, so we're going to start announcing summer camps pretty soon. These videos will still be available in the summer, but if you want to sign up for our last month and a half or so of Bits and Bytes for spring, we will always have the live links up here, and again, as we work through the month, the videos for lessons will be here when they're relevant and available. So not all of our lessons have videos because some of them are things you need to come to in person. If you do want to come to in person, you can click on any of these links, and it will take you to our partners page at Palo Alto. And they have the sessions here for the remaining weeks we have planned for right now. So we have, right now we're in our last digital literacy series for the spring, but we'll have Make Code Arcade, you can see here on the schedule, one more puzzle club, and then Make Code with Tinker. So you can sign up for all of those by clicking this Register Now button, or you can sign up for each series by itself by clicking the drop down and Register Now under there. Again, these are free. They're an hour from 4:30 to 5:30 Central Time, Mondays and Wednesdays. So if you want to come, you're more than welcome to. And I will see you in the next video.